And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, for Sunday morning, the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast socked in with IFR. IFR in areas here strewn out across the Bering Sea, but good VFR here from the southwest coast into the interior. Some lower conditions over the Copper River Basin into Prince William Sound, and marginal VFR for the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, have some VFR breaking out over areas of the inside waters down there. And good VFR here for the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, northward all the way up to the North Slope. So some IFR up over the North Slope, but marginal VFR for the Arctic coast. And still a couple of zones of IFR out here covering much of the Bering Sea. The bigger one out there to the west, extending down to the Alaska Peninsula here for this eastern one. And then for Monday morning, those two areas kind of merged there. A third one coming in way out to the west there in toward Shimianatu. And IFR extending north through the Bering Strait, covering the North Slope and Arctic coast once again. Brooks Range southward, looking pretty good. Marginal VFR due to a disturbance here in shower activity. Talkeetna Mountains, Manuska Valley with IFR over the eastern Copper River Basin. Marginal VFR for the southeast coast. And for the afternoon Monday, still marginal VFR with areas of showers here from the Manuska Valley, Talkeetna Mountains eastward there across the Copper River Basin. And not too bad for the southeast coast now, mostly VFR and good VFR here, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, all the way up to the Brooks Range and eastward across the Yukon Flats and the Tanana Valley. And for passes, Anatuvik, IFR trending toward marginal VFR through the daytime, as well as Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, look for a VFR flying day on either approach there, as well as rainy. Windy VFR. Isabel, same forecast, good VFR. Mintesta VFR. Tanita VFR. Portage VFR. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet here across the northern third or so of the state. Otherwise, up to 6,000 feet over Nunivak Island, the Yukon Delta coast. About 4,000 feet here across southern Alaska and the Panhandle. And then quite a gradient here, 2 to 8,000 feet there across the east central Aleutians. And icing, heaviest, best chance of seeing some heavy icing, or the best chance of some considerable moderate rime icing will be out here over the Aleutians with that next incoming system there. Otherwise, pretty clear, nothing too significant over the remainder of the Bering Sea and the interior. Maybe some isolated moderate up there over the Brooks Range into the northern Kobuk and Koyukuk valleys, and also along the southeast coast. And the jet stream here, the main jet, well to the south of the area, in fact, cutting in south of the Queen Charlotte Islands into British Columbia, but out here to the west, we've got northwest flow, pretty strong, 90 to 120 knots as it blows across the eastern Aleutians. And 9,000 feet, pretty good high pressure out here at this elevation. To the west of that, south winds 40 knots, low pressure just east of the Seward Peninsula. So we've got breezy conditions, 35 to 40 knots, mostly from the north there, from the Yukon Delta coast up to the northwest coast of the state there, actually Cape Lisburne Point Hope area, and pretty light over the eastern and southern part of the state. And then we've got 40 knotters here, eastern North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle. 3,000 feet, small area, 30 to 35 knot winds there just south of Yakutat, mostly off the coast. Lighter for the southeast coast. Central eastern interior from Prince William Sound up to the Arctic coast, pretty light winds there. And northerly flow, 25 to 35 knots here over the western part of the state and the northern Bering Sea. The strongest winds ahead of that next incoming but weakening front here, 35 knot winds with that. Turbulence, look for considerable moderate turbulence for the western Aleutians there. Also for the Alaska Peninsula and the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, right up into the western Brooks Range area. Pretty smooth for the interior and the southeast coast.